Wurda, I'm Catherine Liddle, the CEO of SNAICC National Voice for Our Children. Wurda, it's how you say hello in my grandfather's language, Aranda. But I'm a long way away from Alice Springs today. I'm on the lands of the Bunurong people in Melbourne, part of the Kulin Nation. So before we go any further, it's really important that I acknowledge their leaders, past, present and emerging. So the reason I'm standing here having a chat with you today is because on August the 4th, we celebrate National Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Children's Day. That's a national day of celebration of our children and their awesome connection to culture. Now, we have known for a very, very long time that our children thrive and that their development, well-being and safety are best met when they have access to their families, their communities, their country and their culture. And that's the reason that this year's theme is Proud in Culture, Strong in Spirit. The other thing we know is that our mob like sharing stories. So this year we have distributed 15,000 bags with a few activities in there, but also there's a storybook there. And that book is written by Sally Morgan. She's an Aboriginal author from the Pilbara region. It's called Can You Dance? And that's another thing about our mob. We love sharing our stories. Now I'm going to take a moment and share a story with you from my country, my Nana's country, Pradama Mob. Our children grow up immersed in stories, and that's a good thing because our mob, we love telling stories. And today I'd like to share a story with you, and it comes from my childhood. So where I grew up, you couldn't just walk over to a wall and turn on a light, and you couldn't just turn on the hot water tap and expect there to be hot water because we didn't have constant electricity. Although I might add a little bit here. If it was hot and it was summertime, it was so hot that even the cold water felt like hot water. Anyhow, one of the times that the generator would be running would be just on dusk, and that would give us enough time to cook dinner, to clean up, wash up, sweep the floors. And then what we'd all do is we'd go outside, we'd light a fire, and then we'd all lay down in our swags outside. And the reason we were sleeping outside is because, again, the electricity would turn off, so there wouldn't be any way to heat the house or any way to cool the house. You were better off outside where there was either a fire or maybe a breeze where you could listen to the cattle making noise or the windmill creaking. It's a lovely noise to go to sleep to. Anyhow, as that generator was starting to run out of fuel, it would go and cough 3 times. At that point in time, everyone would go, yay! And then everything would plunge into blackness, but only for a few seconds, because then all the stars would come out, and the stars in the moonlight would be so bright that you could see how red the sand was beneath us. You could sometimes even see the green in the leaves of the trees. Anyhow, what we'd then start to do is look up at the stars, and we'd be looking for things like aeroplanes, shooting stars, satellites, but we'd also be looking for stories, and we'd say to our Nana, Nana, old girl, tell us a story for those stars. And she'd say, well, let me tell you about that star. How many? And we'd count them. And we'd say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now, if we counted 7 stars, then she was going to tell us the stories of the 7 sisters. Now, the 7 sisters, imagine what that looked like. Imagine how special it is to see 7 sisters. So these 7 sisters were so special that a waddy, a man, fell in love with them. And he wanted to be with them all the time. Now, this waddy, see that little guy behind me? That's a waddy. And he's a magic man. So in order to trick the sisters to be with him all the time, he used to turn into trees, rocks, snakes, animals, anything. He was proper magic, very, very strong and powerful magic. So the sisters were constantly running away and trying to outwit him. But he was also a little bit kind too in trying to trap them, because he made sure that they knew how to hunt and how to find food and how to find water. So this story was very, very clever in teaching our children how to find water and food at different times in the life cycle. Anyhow, it got to the point where he finally caught one of the sisters, the little sister, the slower sister. And at that point in time, the sisters worked out that they would have to leave this country forever. And the only way to get away from him was to run up to the stars. So now when you look up at the stars, you can see those 7 sisters where they took themselves away from all their family and all their communities, but they have to stay there to stay safe. And the little sister is the last of the stars in the group. We used to recall it the saucepan when I was a little kid. Anyhow, it is one of my favourite stories, but it's also a really special one because, as I said, these stories don't only keep us entertained, they teach us special things. And one of the reasons Nana would share that story is because you can only see the 7 sisters in springtime. And what's important about springtime when you live where all the land is red is it's also the time that the snakes start walking around at night time. And in telling us this story, that Nana would make sure that we were too scared to get out of bed in case this waddy came looking for us as well. And that meant that we were safe and wouldn't step on snakes. Anyhow, that's my story for today. Next time I'll tell you another one.